Now let's put all this information together and let's do some analyzing of this graph. So I've got a graph here. It's a function. And so the first question asks me, what is f of negative 3? Well, remember, f of negative 3 means that I am looking for an x value of negative 3. So if I'm looking for an x value of negative 3, where is that? Well, negative 3 is 1, 2, 3. There's my negative 3. What's the value of the graph at negative 3? And it's 1, 2, 3. So see, this is negative 3. This is negative 3. So f of negative 3 happens to be negative 3 because this point is negative 3, negative 3. So the next one says, what is f of 0? Well, 0 is right here on the y-axis. So what is this point that I have there? Well, the point for that is right there. 0 corresponds to a y value of 2. So this is going to be 2. Now, I'm going to erase this because the next question is going to ask it in a little bit different manner. It wants to know, find all values of x for which f of x equals negative 1. And remember what I told you, f of x equals y. So it's saying if y is negative 1, what are all my x values? So y is negative 1. So here's y equal to negative 1. So what are all the x points there? Well, if you look, the only one I've got is this one right here. There is a point, and x equals negative 1. Now you see this one up here. The problem is that's an open circle, and open circles aren't equal to. And so this x equals negative 1 is the only point where y, or f of x, actually also equals negative 1. Now look at the next one. The next one says f of x equals positive 1. So this is positive 1. Where are my x values for positive 1? Well, if you look closely, again, open circle means not equal to, so the only one I have is up here at positive, what is that, 2. X equals 2. A few more points to make on this graph. Determine the x-intercepts. Well, the x-intercepts are going to be where it crosses the x-axis. And if you notice very carefully, it does not. So in reality, the answer to this question is none. The y-intercepts is where does it cross the y-axis? Well, it crosses the y-axis at 0, 2. So the y-intercept is 0, 2. This point right there. Then it says determine the domain and range. Well, again, I'm going to look to the left, and what do I see? To the left, I see an arrow pointing left. On the right, I see an arrow pointing right. And when I look across this graph, I don't see any x values that are skipped. So I see all these values are from here. When I draw a box, every one of the values here are covered somewhere on these graphs. And so the domain of this is negative infinity to positive infinity. What about the range? Let me erase some of this stuff so we can look directly at the range. Remember, our range values are our y values. So our range values are y values. So I'm looking at from the bottom, which has an arrow, to the top, which has an arrow. But then I need to check in the middle and make sure all my y's in this box are taken care of. And are they? Actually, no, because I have this little hole that the graph doesn't have any values at. So that hole is from negative 1 to positive 1. So how do I write that in notation? It's going to go negative infinity, and we're going to have to stop at negative 1, and that's included because that point's included. Then, because we have two of them, we're going to put that capital U. And because I have that point, I'm going to put 1, 2, and then it's got an arrow at the top, infinity. But I have to skip over this space between -1 and +1 because there's no points on the graph on those y values.